a rough ride. You still with us, killer?
Ugh, that landing. I've been in gentler fistfights.
I just got back from the Borderlands 3 gameplay reveal event, which is like it's a huge production, and right now people have probably already seen day 2, which is like all the live streaming and everything like that. So like the people that are there now on the second day, like they're actually like playing the demo and people
Still
are
have your
watching.
Borderlands wristband on.
Yeah.
Are you keeping that for tomorrow? Is that going to get you
No,
access?
I'm not going back tomorrow. Or today, or because people will be watching it when whatever.
Right.
But yeah. First day was basically the press day, so that we could get the stuff ready for when they do the reveal live. So it's interesting because like a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, like they're going to be live streaming themselves, and then the gameplay demo people are going to be seeing live stream. So there's like a lot of different ways to check this out, and it's a huge production. Like a lot of pretty much everyone, all hands on deck from 2K's PR side, as well as like a lot of the emails I got for like confirmations were like blah 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 temp. Like there's like these people don't even work here full time. Like
Wow.
you know, like a lot of extra hands. A lot of people that are usually like not even involved in this series, and they flew tons of people out. Like it's really funny. Like a lot of the paperwork I got was like assuming that like I had taken flights and that I was staying at the
I love
hotel.
that. Yeah.
And like be sure to come to the lobby at this time for your shuttle. And I'm like, well, I just drove here and parked, but thanks.
Take the shuttle, you know?
No,
I mean,
well, that's the thing. They kept the actual location secret. So I had to go to the hotel and then check in and then check in for the shuttle and then take the shuttle to the place. And then they like partnered with AMD and some other people. And so they have like 200 something AMD PCs that everyone is playing on. But it's the real deal. Like, I think one of the things is like when we were criticizing the previous reveals of Borderlands 3 is it's like, okay, that wasn't much. And like, okay, there's a little bit more. And like now it's just like, okay, here's a huge stage demo followed by a huge hands-on time.
Cool.
So it was really, really cool to like really like dig into a lot of the specifics and details and stuff. Only on 2 of the characters. They're leaving some of the specifics on the other characters for later.
Oh, we know the characters, just not the specifics.
Right, like their abilities and stuff. So they had Amara, who is the new Siren, who's got like the 4 Goro arms or whatever behind her, and then Zane, which I don't remember exactly like what his class is called. It's probably in here somewhere, but he's got like a lot of extra abilities and stuff too. Yeah, so I've got my notes and then I've got their notes. They've got like all of these things about like what they walk through here. Like, yeah, so they started off basically from the beginning of the game, past the cutscenes.
Okay.
And then they showed a few sections of gameplay on Pandora. They show Claptrap back. They show Lilith back. One of the things I find really funny is that they still... Do you remember... You play the original. Do you remember them having those strange, like, FMV things that sort of took up part of the screen, like the telepathy of, like, people live action?
For what?
In Borderlands.
In the while you're playing the video game?
Yeah, while you're...
No, not at
yeah.
all.
So they're still there. These weirdo things of, like, an actress... like looking at you and you hearing Lilith's voice. Like,
so weird.
Yeah, it is weird. But the nice thing is, like, it's all familiar, but it does, I think, like, that like now that we're basically in another generation since Borderlands has even been around.
Yeah.
Like, it does show off that art style, even though the art style hasn't changed, it shows it off better because you don't get as much of that blurriness and stuff. I still saw a couple of texture pops here and there, like transitioning to different scenes, but not like before, to where like you could just see like, okay, when's it gonna come? When's the screen gonna load in? Everything was nice and sharp. And the first demo when they were going through, one of the things I thought was really funny is they essentially like walked us through the tutorial.
Okay.
And like not only like were they showing off like some of the new mobility and stuff, but like they were like talking about the purpose of a tutorial. It's like, yeah, well, okay, it's the tutorial. Like it teaches you how to play the game. Got it? Okay. But there are some nice little things that you can do now. You can like slide into cover.
Cool.
And you can also
and there's no like hard cover system. It's just you're just crouched.
Yeah, you just crouch behind it. You don't stick to it. And then you can also you can just do like mantling is what they call it. Like when you can like ledge grab and pull yourself up.
Neat. Mirror's Edge style. Cool.
Yeah. So those are both nice mobility things. And
because it's a very just for the record, I played Borderlands 1 for like a bit solo, and I've never played any other Borderlands. But like you do a lot of climbing up on or traveling upward through structures from what I remember.
Pre-sequel had the double jumps and all that, and like the moon gravity. So you're doing
not having to make that jump completely. I imagine just helps you get around the environment quicker. And...
Yeah. So yeah, they did show Claptrap like right away. So like the tone is essentially the same. I mean, it may be tweaked here and there. I don't know how much it'll make a difference for people that aren't into that, but I still find it entertaining.
Sure. Is there any kind of weight to 3 though? Because like my brain immediately thinks trilogy. I mean, and it's been so long, So it's like, do you feel there's any kind of impact in the world that like this is going to deal? Not spoilers or anything, but like that this is going to deal with maybe a broader story or other characters we don't know.
Well, this is the kind of interesting thing that Borderlands has been doing is it is really building on itself and on its lore. And one of the ways that they're doing that is with the Vault Hunters, essentially. And so Lilith was a playable character in the first game, and then she was, a secondary character in the second game. And then again, now here she is, like, she and Claptrap are, like, leading the Crimson Raiders. And so you interact with these past characters that you played with in earlier games, but you don't play as them. You're just kind of getting introduced to them, and they're sharing their experiences with you. You run into Zero, who was the ninja in Borderlands 2, and you do a mission with him. And so that's really cool. So there's that kind of thing of like, you've got new characters and new abilities to play around with, but you still kind of get like that little rush of like, oh, there's like one of the characters I used to play as, and them doing all their cool stuff. And
if I don't have that reference, of who's in what game, or that I've played with, other people have played with these characters before, does it feel like the game kind of winks at you when they introduce these characters, or is it just like you'll get it, you'll pick up how special this is if you've played those games? If you haven't, these are just new people you're meeting. It's like not.
Yeah, I think that they do give a little bit of introduction. They talked about wanting it to be something that anyone can jump into. That like you don't need to have all of this backstory and stuff for some of the characters. Like I said, like I think Zero, they make a point of saying that he was a Vault Hunter or he was in the Crimson Raiders before or whatever. Cool. But like Reese, who was in Tales from the Borderlands, he actually plays a pretty big part of the demo that we play.
Wow.
You're just talking to him through a hologram, but he's like the head of Atlas, which is one of these big gun manufacturers, and he has you do some quests and things. But I don't think there's any point there where they're like, hey, remember this guy from this thing? Or, like they're just like, this is the guy. And if you recognize him, great. If you don't, then fine. So it's pretty interesting there, like how they're kind of building on that. And I got to speak to Chris Brock, who's a senior project producer, afterwards, and I kind of asked him about it, like, why are you every time like making people get into new characters rather than just like put them all out there and let me choose?
Oh, sure.
And he's like, one of the points that he brought up that I thought was pretty good is that, well, if we brought a character back, well, then we'd want to like sort of reinvent them and reinvent their skill tree, and then they'll like people are going to be upset with how we changed how this person plays and all of that. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I think another thing too with this that they're doing that's new is so your special ability is one of your thing. Your special skill is one of the things that kind of defines your character, right? So like whether you do a ground pound or you like go into rage mode or whatever it might be, or now each of the new Vault Hunters actually has 3 special abilities, and then and they each have their own skill trees, but you can like equip and unequip them. You don't have to like totally lock yourself in.
Cool.
Obviously, like however far down you go down that skill tree, like it's going to be more effective, and
Sure.
you're going to have to choose where to spend your points. But like the ones that they show for Amara were all really different. So one of them is a ground pound, so he like jumps up and smashes down and like does area of effect. The other one is like, I think they call it like a projection, and so like she just like sends off like kind of like a I don't know, like a projection of herself, right? Like you see her form blast forward, and like it's like basically an extra shot that you have, like a more powerful shot. And then the other one that I started with that was pretty interesting is like she has like this like astral arm that kind of comes up and grabs somebody and holds them in place, so that you can shoot them as much as you want until it disappears.
Is there like a size limitation to that? Like you can't do that
There
to
is. Like there are certain
the big
enemies.
guys,
There's certain enemies that you can't do it with,
Okay,
and so
yeah,
it'll
yeah.
just do like some extra damage or whatever. But yeah, so that's the kind of thing where before, like you'd be limited to like whatever character you pick to have that one ability, and then it gets augmented further on.
Stupid specific question, but something that I think I especially see multiplayer games doing more of. Of course, like Apex has like the labeling system. Like, is there any and this would almost be impossible for you to tell if you were playing as that character, but I wonder if there's any like verbal cues from the characters when they use their special abilities, especially stuff like that that's gonna like trap someone, that now everyone should focus fire on them. That like maybe she'll say like I got him, you know, and so you're like, oh, you know, a clue to other players. Oh, you're doing that, okay. So you don't just rely on the player speaking over a headset.
I don't think
to coordinate.
I don't think that you would need. I think because I think you're close enough together most of the time in Borderlands where I think you would just see it.
Sure,
you just see that arm pop up. But one thing that is really really cool with the co-op that they showed off is they're doing this really forward-thinking thing with like how their leveling system works, and so this is a thing I fall into all the time is like you and Huber will start playing some co-op multiplayer game, and like I might dabble in it the first night, and then you guys go and play 3 more days, and like now I have no chance of like even like playing with you because you're like 10 levels ahead of me. So there are 2 things that they're doing here. They're doing loot scaling and enemy scaling, and so with the loot, basically you don't vacuum up all of the loot. Like everyone has their own loot. So when that treasure chest opens up, you can pick up your level 4 guns, and I can pick up my level 25 guns. And like I'm not taking those guns away from you.
Got it.
And then with the enemies, they basically say they want it to be seamless where you don't even think about it. So it's like I can be shooting at an enemy, and that enemy is level 25, and you can be shooting at an enemy, and that enemy is level 4. And like somehow like they've got some crazy math that makes that work.
Which is really smart, I think.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if especially moving into Borderlands 3, and especially having like, I don't know if that necessarily lends to like a drop in, drop out thing where like I can just, if you're playing for 4 hours, maybe I was around for a half an hour of that, just as long as you were online. But I think that's so smart for franchises like this, for the genre.
And
on
top of that, what's smart is if you don't like that, if you prefer old Borderlands style, if you prefer to like have your buddy like level you up like out of nowhere, you can go back to the classic. You can swap. Yeah. It's an optional thing. You don't have to stick with this.
And this is a very different game, but like the closest thing to this leveling system that I played recently was Division. And I remember playing with multiple, you know, with Huber and different people, and those were like always the first questions we asked. Like when you pick up loot, it's like, wait, am I stealing this from you, or do you have this, or like, you know, how is this in relation to, you know, can I power level you in some way, or and it seems like they made a lot of smart decisions in terms of like knowing that people were going to, you know, have, I think freedom really is the operative word.
Right.
That like, let me choose to do that how I want to do it. Because some people like that separation, and some people don't mind grinding, and, you know, or like following behind someone that's so much more powerful than them. It's like, I don't really care. I'm not going to play this game again. I'm just going to play it for this couple hours. So I don't really, you know, I just want to be around this person. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Another thing I thought was interesting when I was talking to the producer is, I was asking, you know, like how they figure out like this balance of things being familiar, but like, you know, how much you want to change it up. And he said one of the things that they saw when they're, you know, going into making Borderlands 3 is that for all of the other loot games and stuff, the Destinies and Divisions and things that are out there, like there's not really anything that they feel is really that much like Borderlands.
Yeah,
fair. And so they just want to double down on like what makes their game their game.
Yeah, smart.
And really like emphasize that and expand on that and develop that and go further with that. So I thought that was interesting. Just to see what their perspective on that was, because that's one of my main things when seeing Pandora. I'm like, okay, this is just Pandora again, but you do get off of Pandora. It looks like you get off of Pandora pretty quickly, and you have what do they call it? Sanctuary 3, and Sanctuary was the name of the town. Like that was kind of like their base.
Okay.
And it's a spaceship now. And so like all the stuff that you're used to from the town, like Moxie's bar,
nice.
And
I know who Moxie is. I'm always
Ellie,
up on that.
Ellie's garage.
I've seen enough cosplay of Moxie over the years.
And Marcus's shop and all this stuff, like it's all there in the spaceship.
Cool.
For you, so it's basically like a mobile hub. And then another kind of cool little thing they have in the ship.
Can you like look out the window and see the planets that you've been to, or is there any kind of?
Maybe you do get to a bridge. There's like a bridge that you can walk around and look out, like a big window there. But one of the things they have in there, along with the vendors, is they have like it looks sort of like a trash compactor. It's like a lost loot machine. So like if some gun dropped from like a boss fight or something and like fell down a hole, then you go to this machine and it'll like spit all of this stuff out, and then you can grab whatever you might have missed.
Or sometimes
I don't know how like it keeps up, because like you drop so many guns to begin with. Like I don't know how it keeps up with what you just intentionally passed up versus lost.
I think it would just, if you didn't get something, it would just throw it on that list. Yeah, that's interesting.
Another thing I think is really cool, they talked about having a lot more bosses this time, but one thing I think is cool with this is that the bosses, because like most of the Borderlands guns are like just crazy random things. They just like throw all these properties together and like boom, this is a shotgun that shoots like weird little magic balls that are lightning infused or whatever, right? But bosses actually have specific weapons that you pick up, so it's almost like Mega Man style. So like they showed one in the demo where like this boss was like all about like having this huge sound stage, and it was like sound from speakers like hurting you and stuff like that, and he's shooting this thing that's like, I don't know, it's like shooting like sound waves at you, and so you get that gun after defeating them.
Context.
And then okay, you remember the trailer where it was like guns with legs?
Yeah.
Like, what's guns with legs all about? So in Borderlands 2, they introduced a brand of guns called Tedior, which are essentially disposable. They're like hollow construct or whatever. And then when they were out of bullets, you just throw them away.
I remember that. Yeah.
So now they don't just explode. There's all of these other things that they can do. And one of those things is that when you throw the gun away, it will turn into a gun with legs, and that gun will run around shooting at guys. And there's another one that I got that was, it would essentially bounce. And I don't know if it was bouncing and shooting at the same time, because like when you're in a firefight, like you can't pay that much attention. But it was funny because every time it would bounce, it would go, ouch, oh, this gun bouncing around talking. And then there's another thing that they showed where like when you throw it away, then it would like launch into like multiple missiles that attack a bunch of different enemies.
So your inventory is pretty deep. Like you only, I'm just trying to figure this out. You only have a couple items in your immediate accessible like loadout.
Yeah.
But then you can still access things even just out in the world from I'm assuming a larger.
You've got like a backpack.
If I want to experiment, and I want to keep things, because I just finished Days Gone, and that's like very restrictive. It's like you can only have 3 weapons, and you got to like go somewhere to a very specific spot to trade those in. Where if you have disposable weapons, I'm assuming like I can have a handful of these.
They're disposable, and just like that's just like the conceit or whatever, the mechanic of reloading. Like they changed out reloading for just throwing the gun away. So you throw that gun away and then like it constructs a new one that's got a full clip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it's the same gun. You're still using the same gun. But another one of the things they added is alt fires to a lot of the weapons.
Sweet.
So you've got your basic kind of thing where you've got like a submachine gun and you can like push down on the D-pad to switch it from like semi-automatic to like full burst to full auto or whatever. But then one of the things that's really great is some of the elemental weapons, you can switch elements. So I had like this shotgun style weapon that I'd switch it from electricity to fire. So that way, like, you don't have to have as many guns on your person just so you can, like, keep up with, like, elemental damage on different enemies.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think overall has improved here is the gunplay. Like, the movement and the gunplay and everything feels really freaking good in this game.
Cool.
Like, and
because this is what you're going to be doing 70% of the time, right?
Yeah, most of the guns that I was fighting and like most of the elements, like they all felt really good. And you were just championing Goldeneye, so you should appreciate this.
In the Hall of Greats that we had live, and didn't perform well, but yes, thank you for opening that wound, Bloodworth. Okay, continue.
But part of what makes the gunplay feel so good, is the enemies react so much better when you hit them.
Yeah, and again, to bring up Days Gone and Division again, like I'm noticing a lot of that, a lot of staggering, and I think it helps too when you're playing a shooter where you just have like so many targets, and especially stuff where like people are behind cover and then they'll make a dash for another cover. It's like, I just want to trip this guy. Like, I don't think I'm going to do enough damage to take him out while he's running.
I was doing that a lot, dude.
But and especially if you're in a group, if you're playing with one other person or three other people, that like all I got to do is just slow down one person and then everyone can kind of see, that person take damage and then they can, converge fire, take them out.
Yeah, because when I first saw it is, I came up on this group of enemies and there's this guy with a big shield. And like, all right, I gotta deal with this guy. But he came like down some stairs. He was starting to come downstairs. Shoot him in the kneecaps. He falls over and drops the shield, which I thought was a great little touch too. Because it's not just like the shield is like anchored to his model.
A certain amount of damage.
So then it takes some time to get back up and everything. And so it was like really, really nice. And I noticed too that robots, like sometimes you could like smash their arms off, and I noticed there's still, of course, a ton of repetition in character models when you deal with this kind of game where you just kind of see the same things over and over.
Yeah.
But I noticed there is more variation than there has been in the past. Like you remember like the psychos that just kind of the shirtless guys with a mask that like run at you. Like I saw like there are female psychos now. I'm like, I don't remember any female psychos. Is that new? I'm like, I don't. Yeah. So. Pretty good there.
That's neat to hear from a limited amount of time on a preview event.
Yeah,
like you played it enough to see a bunch of new types and even just a range of different types in that playthrough.
They talked about with NPCs like when when I was fighting along with Zero, I didn't go down to see it myself, but they're saying now that NPCs can also have those revive mechanics like you would have in co-op. So if you go down and you're with an NPC, like it's not just, okay, go back to the checkpoint. It's like the NPC can come over and revive you.
That's something the Division does not do. Very much so. Like there would be no enemies left in the Division and like NPCs just kind of standing on top of me. And I'm like, if you could arrest me, that'd be great. Right. I'd do it for you. Yeah, interesting.
So that was good.
Yeah.
Another little gimme. This is kind of an EA move, but throwing out this immediately, it supports offline play, so you don't have to always be connected to a server. It has split screen still,
cool,
and it has DLC, but it doesn't have any microtransactions.
All right.
So that's nice. Just like check some of these things off to get your player base excited that you're not going to totally screw them over.
Would you have any reason to believe they're not just going to like go nuts with DLC like they have for the first two games?
Oh, I bet they will. But most of the DLC with 2, I thought was really great. Like it had ups and downs or whatever, but some of it was really creative. Like the one where they did with the whole Dungeons and Dragons episode. It was like super cool.
Claptrap had like a wizard hat on and stuff. Yeah, I remember that. Those were memorable. I remember when like I'd get that review script from you back at GT, and I'd be like, "Here we go. What is this crazy?"
Yeah, because I was reviewing like every one of them like it was a brand new game almost. Like they were so huge. Here's where the Zane's skills are. So he has like a decoy that can fire weapons, and you can teleport back and forth to the decoy, which I think is almost. I wonder if they saw what's it called now? Space Lords. Remember the Mercury Steam game that was called Raiders of the Broken Planet or whatever before?
Oh, yeah.
There was a character in that could do sort of the same thing, where like you created a clone and then you could teleport to where the clone is.
Cool.
Another one, he's got just like a drone, but then you can I think you can like give it some commands and stuff. And then he's got a barrier that like blocks bullets, but then when you upgrade it, you can also like create can like have it augment your bullets so that when they go out from the barrier,
cool.
they have special effects.
Oh, neat.
And then you can also pick it up. And Zane apparently can equip 2 skills at the same time, unlike any of the other characters. So I don't know exactly how that works out, how those things combine. But they were saying that as you go into those skill trees, that some of the things that you upgrade like almost make that skill a different skill, which I don't know if is necessarily like that different from before, except maybe they've just gone further into that concept to make them really more distinct. Trying to see what else I haven't gotten to. There's just like a lot of great stuff. We had a lot of time with it.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, so we saw the spaceship, and then they showed us the second planet, which is this like big. We saw it for a second in one of the trailers. This big glass city with like skyscrapers and stuff everywhere.
Oh yeah. That was definitely one of the standout moments. I was very curious what that was.
Yeah, like you get to that right away. That's like level 10 or something like that. And yeah, you meet Zero there, and essentially like you're trying to team up with Atlas, but Atlas is like having a hostile takeover from one of the other companies, Malawan, but they're like teamed up with the villains. The villains is weird, as they always are. Like they're never straightforward. They're like, what do you call them? They call them like the douchiest live streamers that you've ever known, or something like that.
As a cell, it's like okay.
Yeah. So those are your villains for you.
Sure. Like villains, meaning capital V.
Yeah.
That's the threat.
You see Troy and Tyrene Calypso. They're twins, and she has this ability to like kind of vampire, like suck the energy out of people or beings or monsters or whatever. And so, the Vault Hunters, they're trying to go around and get to all the different vaults, but she wants to get to the vaults because she can just like suck the power out of those giant monsters. And so like that's kind of like her motivation. And so like, well, you're trying to get to the vaults before they get to them, but they end up, like in this situation, like they're teaming up with the people that are attacking Atlas. And so you run across them throughout, and then so I played the demo has you playing that second planet, when the playable demo. So like right after you crash land, and then you like meet some characters. There's a new character that you run into that's kind of leading up whatever local forces, and then you run into Zero, and then you fight. I started talking about the special weapons, and then I got sidetracked on other weapons. So you end up fighting like this. I think it's called like a Mega Mind or something, and so it's like this guy with this like big jar with a brain in it.
Okay, nice.
And when you defeat it, the weapon you get, it like shoots out like radiation, but then when you toss it away, you get like this like brain with like spider legs running around, and then if any enemies hit the brain, it explodes with like radioactive goo, which is pretty great.
I always also like that as a progress marker.
Yeah.
You look back on your inventory, which is why I'm curious, like how these weapons are stored. Because like if I have a quest item like that, like I might not use it for long, if ever, but I do like to have it. I do like to put it in a locker or something.
There are definitely
where I can
ones
go
in the
back
past
and
games.
see in storage and be like, yeah, look at all these bosses that I've killed. And so, I would definitely enjoy collecting those.
One of the things I can't remember if they had fixed in some of the other games, and I'm just not remembering, but I remember one of my pet peeves in like the first or second Borderlands was the like opening up chests and then like having to like hold down the button to like suck up all the money or whatever. And now that just happens automatically. You open a chest, money flies at you, which is which is nice. The only things that don't fly at you are like the iridium, like the special currency, the purple currencies, which may be due to like maybe it's like limited and like you want to spread it out. I don't know. And then like actual weapons, because you want to decide whether you want to really pick up that weapon or not. And then I came across like some purple blocks, and like I punched one, and she says like, I don't have what I need for this yet. So I'm like, I don't know if like I'll be able to like mine some ore from those or what later. That's kind of interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you did play a lot, but you were still at the beginning.
Well, I wasn't at the beginning. I was at the second planet after the first
near
planet.
the beginning, and there was still tools and gameplay elements that hadn't been introduced yet.
I did get to do 2 side quests after the main quest, and they were both like ridiculous. Like the character, she wanted me to go get her coffee, and then of course you get over to the coffee shop, and like our power generator went out, and so then you have to like go fight some huge enemy to like get the power generator, and it's like, oh well, we're not serving disposable cups anymore. You need to bring your own mug, and then like you go fight some like military installation that's on a coffee break, and like take their mug, and then after you get the coffee, they retaliate, and it's like coffee commander is like attacking the base, like I want my mug back. And then there's a whole other thing with like this very similar with like burgers, and like you follow the burger delivery robot to the bad guy's apartment or something, and he comes out and you attack him there and ambush him.
Now, when you talk about side missions, was that you guys have another hour or 2 to play this, do whatever you want?
Yeah,
or,
we had like another whatever until the time ended.
Was this a kind of, because I like those open world games, Blood, and I do go to previews a lot of times for open world games, and I like it. I always consider it a bonus when I'm at a preview event and I look around, and to bring up Days Gone again, was the last open world preview event I went to, and every screen was totally different. Everyone was like, whoa, where's that person? Like, did you get that vibe? Did you ever look over at other screens? And
I wasn't looking around too much.
Not abilities and weapons, but just where they had decided to travel to.
There's definitely a lot more space that I could have wandered off to, but I don't think there were too many other side quests that I could have gone to. One thing that I do appreciate, though, is that one little tweak that they've made to the map is you kind of Castlevania / Metroid style. You can see where you've been. So, like, areas that you've traveled to, like they'll turn blue on the map, and they'll be kind of like a gray or brown when you haven't. Which I thought, I think that's great for any game where you're having to explore a lot of space.
I get obsessed with that so easily.
Yeah.
When it's just even some like dumb shack somewhere, it's like, gotta make it blue. Gotta get over there, and even I gotta travel to the other side of the planet to just like make that dumb outhouse blue or whatever. But you were playing co-op, or did you?
No, we weren't playing co-op. But we were
interesting.
Single player there. We'll probably do some co-op later.
That's a choice.
Yeah. One of the things I've personally, and I know not everyone agrees with me, but I've personally felt that Borderlands 2 and pre-sequel, like I felt like those both play fine as a single player experience or a co-op experience. I think you can do either one. I think the first game was definitely a lot drier in that sense, where it's like if you're not playing with somebody, you're probably gonna feel like you're like in a slog for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like they improved that in the sequels, and with the gunplay being as good as they are, and I think they probably had it's probably like turned down a notch. It's probably a little bit easier than it should have been. That it will be when we play the final game.
I think that makes sense, and just to help you level up a little bit faster, get to those skills, make the guns a little bit easier to find, and
But again, just the responsiveness out of all of those different guns,
cool.
And just how good and distinct each one felt from another. There are guns where it's like you hold a charge and then it blasts off from you, and then there's like just a good shotgun. There's like a repeating pistol that just got a good knock every time it fires.
That's great. I kind of have, this is like unwarranted probably, but I always kind of have that concern. I remember the first time I saw Fortnite, I was like, I bet this game doesn't feel good, like or feel powerful, like it really you have that oomph that like Wolfenstein, Doom, Call of Duty, Kapow, when you really like feel these weapons and hear them and they have like a really nice satisfying impact. And then I see something that's like a little more colorful, a little more cartoony and out there, and it's like maybe that's the sacrifice, that it just doesn't have quite that same impact. So that's really that's did you fall in love with weapons? Did you feel yourself kind of like falling into old patterns of how you used to play Borderlands, or do you think this is the kind of game where you might pick up a weird thing and be like, "Ooh, I'm going to use this for a while"?
Well, a little bit of both. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I think speaks to the strength of them making it so familiar, is that it really didn't take me long at all to like just get back in the rhythm of like, okay, I need to switch to a shock weapon. Like, let me double tap the Y button to like quickly cycle to my third weapon because I know which weapon is in which slot.
Cool.
And all of that. So really like getting in like, okay, now I'm going to melee a dude. Now I'm going to use my ability. Now I'm going to throw a grenade. Like just all of that kind of feeling. And then you mix into that just little things like being able to slide into cover and to be able to flank enemies a lot faster, because I do feel like enemies are coming at you from more directions than in the past. I think things are a little bit more open in that regard. So you've just always got to be on your toes and keeping up with where guys are coming from.
My other question about difficulty would be, do you feel this is the kind of thing, maybe again of coming fresh off of Days Gone, but like there definitely is like an open world challenge in that game where it's like there are challenges early on, these giant like freaker hordes that it's like, if you want to try it, go for it, but you'd probably wait until later. Like do you get a sense there's like dangerous stuff you could stumble upon, or like ways that you could challenge yourself in terms of like, hey, look at this camp. I'm just gonna go face this right now.
The burger boss was definitely one of those moments where this guy is taking a lot of damage, and I'm out of shotgun rounds, and that's been my go-to this whole time. So crap, let me run around to the backside of this room and see if I can find any ammo. That guy seemed to have a lot of resistance, and like, so even though he didn't take me down, I was like in that pressure cooker of like, okay, how am I gonna get around and actually deal with this guy, or am I not going to? So
cool. I'm happy for like many reasons. I'm happy for you getting back into this franchise that you like. I'm happy. I think I'm mostly happy that like this event went well, because it was I think like one of the nervous things about not to like keep harping on this trailer, but like I was surprised that first Borderlands 3 reveal, like the titles weren't as like spastic and crazy as some of the titles had done. I felt like the music was kind of repetitive, and there's just a lot of things where I'm like, I don't know how much time they spent on this advertising, and I don't know if like their ad budget is not the same as it used to be, back in when they were pushing Borderlands 2. And so there were just kind of like red flags here and there where I'm like, I hope they can really slam dunk this. And it's interesting when you were talking about like all hands were on deck for this preview event. It's nice to hear that like this is a big initiative. Not only obviously for Gearbox.
They brought out the quote unquote whole team, which I'm guessing is just like the main Gearbox team. Like they just brought like 50 or 60 people on stage, like right when they introduced everything. So it was pretty cool to see that.
Like, you can feel the love, like whether you like Borderlands or don't, whether you are can jive with the gameplay or the comedy or not. It just seems like a game that people are extremely enamored with this world and these characters, and so it's tempting. It's tempting to sign up as a co-op partner, man, and to run around this world with you, because I just love, again, it's like you talk about turning buildings blue, and I just love that conquering aspect to where, and that's what's fun, especially for a game. How long would you say like Borderlands 2 was? Do you remember? Were we talking like 30, 40 hours?
I'd say somewhere in there, like maybe 50 even.
It's a long time, and I think it's the kind of length of a playthrough where you look back at your experience and you like kind of forget maybe some parts. And so I like the idea of looking at the map and being like, oh yeah, you see some of those early areas, like I remember that, like that was last week that I did that, or unlocking these weapons from these bosses and like going into your inventory and being like, that's right, that brain guy. Like I'm never gonna use that weapon, but I remember that. I'm proud to have that trophy. I'm gonna keep that thing around. So it sounds fun, and I think it's tricky because they want to improve so much, and obviously not only in being just a direct sequel and having the number 2 attached to the last game and the number 3 attached to this, but having it been so long, like you said, being on a new generation of consoles, you want to improve as much as you can, but at the same time have people jumping in being like, oh, it's classic Borderlands. Did you have that sentiment shared by any other people? Could you kind of sniff out the Borderlands fans at this event?
Oh, there were definitely people in there.
When Claptrap was introduced in the video, people were like, woo!
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll probably, what people are seeing, they'll probably get a lot more reactions during the live stream and stuff, because that's more, like I said, today was more of the press day, so there's like a lot of old gray guys like me. I'm not that gray yet, but it's starting to happen. Yeah. So yeah, with the streamers and stuff tomorrow, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of screams and stuff there. And they actually did have they had a lot of people from the team there, so I'm sure that they were screaming their heads off.
Right.
So that kind of helps the impression of the crowd,
right,
when you're screaming yourself. But
thanks for checking it out, man.
Yeah.
What's next? This is coming out this year.
Yeah, it's coming out September 13th. And they did basically detail their whole marketing tour plan. Like they're gonna be at just about everything. They're gonna be E3. They're gonna be PAX. They said I think they're crashing some Destiny event somehow. Like I don't. They're gonna be pretty much anywhere they can get to before this game comes out. So, and like I said, it feels like it's ready. It feels like they've had the luxury of taking their time with it. So
it's not the best, man. You wait until you really launch that campaign when you are less than a year out. Like that is just so exciting, and then I will actually, I just be more in tune with when you have updates and announcements, because I know they're ramping up. Like we are getting close, as opposed to just kind of like another Death Stranding trailer. And you're like, okay, I just don't know what this means, kind of in the greater picture of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. I really hope this does well for them, and I'm excited for fans to jump back in. It's for even someone like me who is not really attached to the series. Like I look at those 4 characters, and it's like, oh, that one clearly. I definitely have my favorites. I'm sure I very easily would be like, oh, this gun right here, no question.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, hopefully there'll be some kind of additional demos to try out these other characters, because I'm curious, how I'll gravitate towards the others, because I've gravitated towards Sirens a lot in the past, and this one definitely had some things that I liked, but I'm curious to see what this Beastmaster is all about.
Right.
What does that mean? Do I capture beasts? Do I have a set of beasts? Do my abilities, is this 1, 2, 3 different beasts for each skill? I don't know. So curious to see how that works.
They wanted to keep you curious, Blood. They wanted to keep you on your toes.
Take those mouths! Yes! Hell yes! I can finally get back to doing what I love! Making some freaking burgers! Burgers are life, my dude!
Sure they are.
Come on, let's go! It's time to get the diner up and running!